Okay, welcome to Awakening Insight Meditation. I made that name up myself, so it's not something that you're going to find in the books or something. But I like it because it says aim. Awakening Insight Meditation, aim. So we're going to aim at something. What? We don't know yet, but anyway, there's an aiming. And my name is Ed Connolly. I live in Blackstone, which is about 50 miles southwest of here. You nodding, so you...
I have friends who live there. So.
Yeah. It's a small town, population about 3,500. My wife grew up there. Got to come in, that's all right.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry.
So here's I just handed this out, so I wasn't talking about that. So I moved there temporarily in 1980, 81. We'd been to India to see the Guru and stay at his ashram, and came back to Blackstone, having no other place to go, having spent all our money. And came to Southside Virginia to discover the only thing they knew about yoga was that you could eat it. It was, as far as being a big yoga teacher, in 1981 in Blackstone, forget about it. So, but I stayed. I tried to leave for 4 or 5 years. Was unsuccessful until I finally got a job with the local paper writing as a feature writer. And for the first time, perhaps in my life, I did not think about wonder about where I was going to go next. Because when I started writing about the town of Blackstone, which was a feature a week, I began to bond with the town.
Excuse me again. I'm not going to come back anymore. Everybody's on their own now. Excuse me.
So when I began to write about the people, I discovered that I could actually write, which I loved doing, but I didn't know I loved it so much. And I could get paid for it, which was wow. And it was creative. So I discovered that I could be creative in an area that didn't support my quote spiritual or intellectual interests. You see, it's kind of like as far as that was concerned, it was a wasteland. But I was able to be creative there, and so I stayed. And temporary became permanent. And that was a transformational moment looking back, because it's kind of like I said, I'm going to sit here. This is my spot. Do y'all watch Big Bang Theory? Mm-hmm. Sheldon has a spot. All right. Well, we all were looking for this spot, but we all think it's we think it's a physical spot, like maybe it's in a town, or maybe it's a relationship, or maybe it's in my state, or if we go abroad, then we say America's our spot, or people that grow up in Blackstone say Blackstone's my spot, and it's kind of like elephants, they come back there to die, or to retire, So this whole idea of finding your spot is very important, because that's where you feel at home, where you feel centered, and you feel okay. Our home is our spot. You go out in the world, you work and you sweat, and you come home and it's, or you've got a seat that your back porch, or a room, So we all have this spot, but it's conditional. So somebody, we can move and lose our spot. Somebody can take it away, or somebody puts a dog poops on it, you know, whatever. It's called conditional. So what we're looking in this, one of the things we're aiming for in this class is to find the spot that cannot be in ourselves, that cannot be contaminated, destroyed, changed. It's not dependent on anything, and it does not die. So it's like an unconditional spot within that is deathless. So this is the spot that Buddha sat on. What we'll be talking about here is the teaching of Buddha, which is called Dharma teaching. I'm not a Buddhist and I don't teach Buddhism, so you don't get in a panic about that. But basically, the wisdom teaching, which is very scientific in the sense that it's like well, if you get a medicine, it's a scientific medication that works if you take it. No matter what you believe or what language it's written in or who made it or whether you think it's going to work or not, if you take the medicine, most of them will do something. But you get side effects with it, so it's always get a plus and a minus with medicines. With the Dharma, there's no minus. So the teachings that we'll be talking about here work like medicine, but if you go to the doctor with an ailment and he gives you a bottle with a label on it, and he says, take this every day for 3 weeks and then come back and see me, and you come back and you say, well, you know, I've still got all these problems. He said, did you take the medicine? You said, well, I read the label and I studied about it on the internet, but I didn't take it. So you take the medicine, come back and see me in 3 weeks. So this class is going to have a label where we will be looking at what makes this thing called meditation work. And we'll also be practicing taking the meditation. So there's 2 parts to this class. There's the understanding of the context that makes meditation work, and then the actual doing the meditation. How do you do it in actual practice? So there's 2 wings to this bird: the understanding and the doing. So that one of the benefits of this particular classroom down here versus the one we had in the other one, you always get lawnmowers and traffic out here. One time they were building the parking lot and you had bulldozers out there. But anyway, this is our spot, so it will not be disturbed. Okay, so this is our spot for Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. For the next time, that's my understanding, I'm going to just continue it right through to the next session. A few people in here have been in the previous sessions because they plus I have discovered that this class is kind of like a pot of tea, that you have to let the tea seep a little bit to soak in the understanding, because you just can't snap it up in one sitting. It has to seep. Coach was mentioning this earlier. This is an understanding that cannot be grasped with the intellect. You have to just sit in it. So I encourage you all, as you, one thing I like about this school is that there used to be elementary school kids sitting here. Maybe this was that 3rd grade room. But you know how little kids come to school is that they're wide-eyed and wondrous. And they don't come like high school kids full of opinions, college students full of opinions. Oh, this sucks. Or this isn't the way the other teacher taught it. Well, I read this somewhere and he isn't saying that. Or where'd you get that stupid idea from? All these opinions. So this, you all are coming like third graders or second graders with opinions left out there. We're all just open, because I'm open. I don't come with lesson plans. I don't come with a script written on my hand, like what am I supposed to say next? This is a, do y'all remember the hippies? This is a happening. Okay, that was the first time that word was used in the 60s. So it's just happening, man. It's just happening. So, I hope we do have some. Do we have any mature hippies in here? Got a couple. Yeah. Well, I don't mean you necessarily had to go to Haight-Ashbury and all that, but you know what I mean. I was teaching high school in 1968 in Northern Virginia. And one of my students ran away from home, went to Haight-Ashbury, came back a hippie queen. I mean, totally transformed. Beautiful clothes, open consciousness, just very aware, and with a shoebox full of pot. Turn the high school on. So, those were the good days. So anyway, this I call this class the 50 Plus Club. Because I'm assuming everybody is 50 and plus. Okay. I'm 77. So I'll be, I'm 70 plus. But the reason I put this up here is because if you want to use 50 as the dividing line, up until 50 we could say we're going uphill in life getting stuff. Getting a family, you're getting a job, you're getting status, you're getting money, you're getting something. And then suddenly everything changes and you start sliding, going downhill. Now everything is leaving, people are dying, jobs are going, getting retired, health is going. Everything is changing, we're letting go. Whereas before, our focus was on getting up to the top of the mountain. Now it's like, I don't want to go down the mountain. I'm going down too fast. Put a brake on this thing. So there is in our age, there is a natural wisdom that blooms when you pass, we'll just use this metaphorically, when you pass the 50 mark, you've done enough of this, most of it going in circles on the merry-go-round, or having gotten busted 2 or 3 times, going up the mountain, we attain a certain natural wisdom in the second half of life, and that is the beauty of the fall. The fall is the harvest. I have in my front yard. I have now it's very big, but it's a fig tree. People gave me a Blackstone that their mother had brought it from Sparta, so it was from Greece. And I always imagine that lineage goes all the way back to ancient Athens. The great grandparents of this tree was in Sparta back when in ancient Greece. But that's very sweet figs. But they come in the fall. So I just had the first one yesterday. So fall is coming when the figs begin to ripen. And flowers, I grow a lot of dahlias. And they seem to get especially bright and full in the fall. So they will go all the way to the frost. And the figs go all the way to the frost, you see. So there is this harvest and this beauty in the second half of life that comes from the understanding of the wisdom and how to let go, rather than clinging, but how to welcome letting go as the this is what the Dharma is. This is what the Dharma, or the wisdom of meditation, is how to let go of our weary mind, how to let go of our attachments. It doesn't mean you have to live in a room with a bowl. Did the air conditioning go off, or was it?
It did go off.
I think it goes off
I think it just might have slide around.
Yeah.
That one was not on.
Maybe that wasn't done work, so I hope you can hear me. Okay, so we're going to capitalize on the natural wisdom we have attained and developed and add to it the wisdom of meditation and some of the principles that we're going to be understanding, we're going to be working with. I handed out a CD called Yoga Nidra. This is a guided meditation. It has 5 sections to it. I call these like apps for the weary mind. I sense, I feel. Oops, this one. So the whole guided meditation takes about 30 minutes. I break it down into 5 different sections that take us on a guided journey inward. So this Yoga Nidra, the voice in the CD is Richard Miller. He's a Dr. Richard Miller, who is teaching this all over the country very effectively for post-traumatic syndrome veterans in hospitals. So most of them is being taught in most of the veteran hospitals for stress and the inability to let go of trauma or stress or worry or anxiety or fear, or any negativity. This is a very powerful practice that empowers us to do it. It doesn't do it for you, but it shows us how to do it. So we'll do these today. We'll listen to the first one, and we'll. As we go along through this course, we will work with these as we move along, because they're very profound, and there's a whole philosophy or a way of looking at life embedded in this practice. So it's this is, like I said, this is that Dharma, which is it's like an understanding in itself, but it's also a doing of something. So it's that 2 wings. This Yoga Nidra is an interesting word. Has anybody here ever had a yoga class? I'm sure somebody. So at the end of a yoga class, you lie in the corpse pose, and the teacher will usually give you a guided relaxation. That was the best part of the class. You lie down, now I can relax. And the teacher will either I remember when I was taking yoga, doing yoga back in the 70s, teacher would say, well, tense the right face, and then relax it out. Tense your right shoulder, and then relax. So you go through the body, tensing each muscle and then letting go. So it was like you couldn't let go of it until you could find it. In other words, you couldn't relax your body until you could find it. So you had to find it and now let go. This practice you could describe it as taking a flashlight of awareness and moving it through your interior, undiscovered land, like you were going into. I remember when I was growing up, I loved this was in the 50s, I loved the maps and the stories of Africa, because Africa, the middle of Africa was like the undiscovered country, the Congo, so there was King Solomon's mines, and the safaris and the explorers who would go into Africa. But now I realize that was a metaphor for the rest of my life. This wanting to discover the undiscovered country, but it's within. So this practice is kind of like going into our own interior with a flashlight of awareness, and it just shows you how to look within in a safe way, so that tigers don't jump out. It's a funny thing about meditation, but there has been, it's becoming more and more mainstream, particularly what's called, it's called mindfulness meditation. Is becoming kind of, if you can Google it up, it's very, corporations are doing it, so everybody wants to do it. One of my favorite stories is that I remember, probably today, if you go to a medical clinic and watch the medical video, you usually see a documentary or a video on the benefits of meditation. Oh, it lowers blood pressure, it reduces stress, and it does all this stuff. And then you go say to the doctor, say, I'd like to get some of that. Where can I get some of that? Well, I don't know. We don't have any here. No, so the medical science will tout it, but nobody knows anything about it or where to get it. But mindfulness meditation is called insight meditation. Just before I forget, what I would recommend that you read during this course would be the books by Eckhart Tolle. I've always said Tolle, but his name is pronounced Tolle. Is anybody familiar with The Power of Now? And he became very famous when Oprah did a book review that took him on a global level, when they just talks with him about his books. So a few people are familiar with that. You can get that Barnes & Noble has these. But first book he wrote was The Power of Now. The second was The New Earth. And he teaches around the globe now. And he's been a great influence on me. But he basically teaches a wisdom teaching, an ancient wisdom teaching in a modern language, so that we can grasp it and get an understanding of it. The other, how many people were on the internet at home? A good number of people. Okay. There is a website called the Seattle Insight Meditation Society, or SIMS. And Rodney Smith is the teacher there. And he's been there for past 10 years. It's in Seattle. And he gives a talk every 2 weeks on the Dharma and on insight meditation. And they're all on that website in either audio or video. So if you go to the website and go to talks, it'll open up all of the series of talks he's given on meditation over the past 10 years. And you can start with, the first one is Intro to Meditation. And you can listen to them on your computer. The talks last about 45 minutes. He's getting them to this meditation society in Seattle. They're very profound and they're very powerful, and he delivers them with a lot of passion. He spent 3 or 4 years in Thailand as a monk in a forest monastery. Decided that wasn't his path and gave it up, and he became a hospice director for about 15 years. So he has both a background in the Buddhist Dharma and in his own personal experience with death as a hospice director. And so he brings these two understandings together very powerfully in his talk. So I encourage you to check one out and see what you think. And you can, when you look at the series, when you go to the series, we give you the series, because he'll take a topic and do for a whole year on it. You know, so it's very extensive and very penetrating. And the other one I did mention, Diva Brahma, is the music. So these would be the, these two here would contain about everything I know. Okay, let's go ahead and do the, well, let me explain Yoga Nidra. Then we'll get into the actual practice. Yoga means, there are a lot of different meanings of yoga. One of them is awakening. Awakening to your true nature, true self, or your spot. Going back to where, awakening to your center that is not disturbed by the world. And Nidra means sleep. So it's kind of a paradox here. You have awakening that is sleep, or awakening sleep. Well, what this practice does is put your thinking mind to sleep. Talkie Talk. Remember South Pacific? That musical? And the song in it about Talkie Talk? Talkie Talk, well, that's our mind. In Buddhism, it's called the monkey mind. You're talking all the time. You know, it's like Facebook comments. You're just commenting on everything. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? What's going to happen? Oh my God, I got to do this. Why did I do that? Oh, damn, I did that again. Well, what, you know, just Talkie Talk all the time. You see. Well, when you do this practice, it puts Talkie Talk to sleep. But what remains is awareness. So if you do fall asleep in this, which is normal when you do it, awareness is still awake. So that's okay. You'll move on through that. Sometimes I put people to sleep.
Every time.
So what we're the first practice is the introduction and sets you up for meditation. Puts you in the proper posture, in the proper attitude or approach to meditation. And before we go any farther, let me just say one thing about posture. When you sit for meditation, you can sit on the floor with a high cushion, or you can sit in a chair. But when you sit in a chair, just get a chair where you're not like this or like that, or your feet are swinging, but where you can. These are really good chairs here, where you can sit with your back straight, but not relying on the back of the chair, and your hands relaxed in your lap, so that you can relax your breath. Get your feet settled like this. So this would be a great posture for meditation. If you are adventurous, I would recommend sitting on the floor some. Several reasons for this. One of the best reasons is that as we age, the floor becomes our enemy. If you remember when we start out here, we're on the floor. We love the floor. We're at home on the floor. The floor is our spot. And then we get legs, and then we start going around, and then when we go over the top, now the floor becomes our enemy, and we don't want to go down there. You got the ads. I'm falling, I can't get up. You know, the whole thing. You know, don't go there. You'll never get up again. Or if you hit the floor, you're going to break your hip. You know that. So the whole thing is don't go down there. Well, if sitting on the floor basically is going home. It's getting back in touch with the floor, and it really does. That posture of just sitting with your legs crossed on a high, firm cushion for just 5 minutes. 10 minutes, really does begin to open up your hips, and it restores limberness to your lower back and body, and it reverses that aging process. So there's more to it than just sitting on the floor. Speak for me, yes.
Should noises be turned off, and they should be very quiet and instructive?
Yeah, you need to to make for the physical help of meditation. Is again, you want to get your spot. So either your bedroom, or you've got a guest room, or you've got someplace that's not going to have any traffic. And you get a little rug or a cushion or something, or if you have a chair, make that chair your meditation chair. Put a shawl on it. Make it a spot. Might have a little table where you might keep some flowers, or you might put a picture of a sunset, or something that elicits peace. Or if you're religious, you can put a religious picture. In other words, so you make it. Just like the bed, if you go get in bed, that's where you sleep. If you go in the kitchen, that's where you cook. If you go in the bathroom, that's where you're going to poop. I mean, every place got a function. So you have to create the physical place that's going to support your meditation. So when you go there, the mind says, well, here's for meditation. I'm not going to think about cooking or going to do this, you see. So it's we're looking at support, So this is support to have a special place and a time. Glad you brought this up. The way I encourage people to work with this is that say 15 or 20 minutes. 15 or 20 minutes is a good meditation start. A good meditation time. This first one takes 12 minutes, and these are about 8 minutes apiece. So you can put this on a CD. The CD, you can put it on a player. Most of them have a remote, or not, but you can sit for meditation, get a timer, an oven timer or something, and set it for 15 minutes. Punch your CD player, let the CD put you into the mental state, the posture of it, and then when that little session is over, you'll get familiar with it. You just hit pause and just stay in the meditation for the next till you're done with it. So you can use the topic of that particular session. There's some of these, like I feel, works with emotions. So if you have a particular worry that you're dealing with, confrontation with a family member, or worry about the future, or money, or if there's any negative emotion that seems to be plaguing you, this is a very effective practice on showing you how to release it. So each of these are a particular belief about yourself. Oh, I'm always a failure, or whatever. A belief that we can't let go of. This will work with that. So all of these have different applications. In the same way, if you have a smartphone, there is tremendous power in the smartphone. But it's so great we can't use it all, so we get an app. And we say, well, I want to know where all the ice cream stores in Richmond are. So I can get an app. I don't know if there is one. Get an app. Then I would turn this on, hit the app, and it would show me the closest ice cream store. And I would go there and have an ice cream. So that takes the tremendous power of the cell phone and applies it to a specific need. So this is kind of the way Yoga Nidra works. There's tremendous power in the practice, and you can apply it to specific needs that you're working with in your everyday life. In the same way. Okay, so we're getting set up now. You're going to, the next thing that's very important. Intention. If you have a car, when you put no gas in it, you can have a really great car, but it's not going to go anywhere. So meditation is a great car, but it's not going to go anywhere if you don't put some intention in it. It's the same thing. So let me tell you about the story of Buddha. I don't know if you know the story of Buddha, but it was a historical fact. Buddha lived 500 years before Christ. So there's some historical fact here, but it's mostly legend and metaphor. So his story means something to us. And it's not just about some guy that lives 500 years before Christ. The story of Buddha is that when he was born, soothsayer said, this baby's going to have two destinies. He can either be a great spiritual leader or a great king. His father was a king. Either way. So the father said, well, I want him to be a king, take over the kingdom. So he allowed, his name was Siddhartha. So Siddhartha grew up in this huge palace complex where the king kept anything away from him that might make him want to be desperate. No sickness, no old age. So when he got into his 30s, which is the age usually of when something usually happens in your life, Jesus was in his 30s, Buddha in his 30s. He had this sudden impulsive desire to go into town. And it was a spontaneous act. So he went in with his charioteer, and he saw an old person that was, saw somebody who was sick. In India, sickness and death and corpses are right on the road, up country or anywhere. He's right there. So what is that? Well, Master, that's sickness. We all get sick. And then he contemplated that, and he went back, and a few days he came out again, and he saw an old person. Well, what is that? Well, that's old age. We all get old. And so he contemplated that, and then he came back out again, and he saw a corpse. So what is that? Well, that is death. We all die. And then he came back out the fourth time, and he saw a wandering monk or ascetic. Maybe he was in orange clothes, I don't know what they were then, but they were, or a yogi. But he was an ascetic, you know, a monk. Who is that? Well, he wants to be free from the first three. He wants to discover the release from old age, sickness, and death. So, what this was a, we can understand this metaphorically as an existential encounter with our own mortality. Usually on this scale here, this happens for teenagers when maybe one of their friends gets killed in a car wreck. That really blows a teenager away because suddenly they're just like me. And a teenager feels they're immortal. I'm going to die. You know, so death is, is very, so that all along the way we get little hints, little smacks with death. So it's always an existential encounter. So over here we get this encounter when the doctor calls up and says you've got a lump. Well, that's the same encounter Buddha had when he walked out and saw the corpse. You see, it was like I'm going to die, not like he's going to die. See, it's my mortality. Bam! When that hits you, those of you that have had close encounters with death or with serious illness or something, we also encounter it when our loved one, our parents die, children. This encounter with death blows us, shocks us into life. So it shocked Buddha in Siddhartha into his destiny, which was, I want to find the truth of this. I want to understand this. I want to penetrate it. I want to go through it. So he immediately left the palace and went to the edge of the forest, left his princely clothes with the driver, put on whatever they were wearing, just got a bigger bowl and went to the forest. At that time, even in India, this was 500 years before Christ, there was already 1,000 years of yoga, which would mean a philosophical system that was searching inward for truth. The inward search for freedom from the fear of death. So what Buddha set out to do was to discover the truth of death and the release from the fear of death. You see. So he went to the teachers of his day and went through all of the different schools of philosophy and yoga and did them all and found them all to be lacking. This isn't it. Each one would say, oh, stay with me and take over my school. You have all these students, you'd be a great teacher. No, I'm going on. This is not it. So he got in that day, asceticism and not eating, starving the body was part of the practice. So almost starved himself to death. So So then he reached the point where he was near death, and a cowherd girl came by and gave him some milk. And he took the milk, and it restored his energy. And he remembered a time in his youth when he was under a tree, and a great peace came over him. So he remembered that something in that way. So he came to this banyan tree, this big tree. It's called the Bodhi tree, the tree of intelligence. And he said to God or existence or whatever, I'm going to sit here until I discover the truth of my quest. If I die sitting, so be it. So that is intention. Okay, so he did. So he sat, and in 7 days, he began to go through the levels of awakening, where he was able to see I'll call it the operating system of the human mind. In other words, if you're familiar with computers, I have a good friend of mine who grew up in Blackstone. And back when computers were just internet was young, a friend of his showed him, this is the internet, and here's the web page. And so he's looking, he says, well, how do you make that? What is, He says, oh, well, there's a language that if you understand the language, you can make programs. And he remember, he told us to me, a light went off, like, oh, you mean if I learn this language, I can create web pages, whereas everyone else just does the web page, but you don't know how to make it. You see, so he studied the language, HTML, and now he's kind of like an example of the modern worker or a modern technological person. He works as a troubleshooter for a big computer company in Arizona, but he has a little place, he lives in Blackstone, he has a house in Blackstone, his girlfriend's in New York, or he might go to Thailand, and he does his work from a laptop. So he's totally free from having to punch a clock. So about every 6 months he goes back to Arizona to have a group session. So this is, but anyway, that's a side thing. But the point is, he was fascinated to learn the language of the computers. In the same way, Buddha was fascinated and curious about learning the language of how the mind works. So our human mind is like an operating system with a me in it. So we have an operating system with a me in it. And the practice of meditation is repeating the steps of Buddha and seeing how our mind works, so we're not trapped by it or caught up in it, so that we're free from it. Because the thing that keeps the operating system of the me going is the fear of death. So the fear of death is kind of like the one thing thinking can't handle, or me. The thinking me. When I say me, it's our personality, our thinking me, who I think I am. Or when I say I'm worried, well, the I that is worried is me. So, but this is the way my mind operates. It's called a conditioned system. It's conditioned to operate a particular way, to have repeating emotions, repeating worries, repeating beliefs. So we keep, it's like it's a recycling machine that recycles life, in different conditions, but it's always the same plot. Like a play. You have a Broadway play, you take it on the road, you would go to a different theater, different characters, different set, but the plot's the same. The same emotional story going on, different places, different times. So the operating system of the mind is kind of like that. So this practice, what Buddha did then, was basically sit and become aware of the mind as he witnessed it. So then the whole mind then dropped off, and there was just the awakened awareness of it. And that's what Buddha means. Buddha means the awakened mind. You see, so it's not a person. It's Buddha means the awakened mind, and we all have Buddha nature. We all have that awareness. You see, so we're all Buddha in that sense. We all have Buddha nature, and we're all interested in awakening it because it's deathless. It's free from the fear of dying because it's not a me. The me is a thing. It's born, got a personality. We believe we're kind of like this thing. But we're looking at the plot. But anyway, I'm getting too far here. So let's stop and listen to this, and then we'll talk a little bit about how it sets us up. Is it too noisy or too cold? No, I'm going the other way. It's getting stuffy, now it's getting chilly. Okay. We'll keep going.
Thank you.
Always, it's everywhere, all summer long.
Well, I always bring this to my classes. I was looking for one, finally got it. Maybe this is it's a little snow globe. It's basically a Buddha globe. And that's basically the whole practice right there. When you sit, the mind settles. When you sit with intention, the mind will settle, and when the mind settles, there's clarity. It's clear. So when we have problems and we're confused, if we know how to sit, we can discover clarity, and then when we have clarity, we just know what to do. When we don't know what to do, that's when I go, should I do this, or should I do that? If I do this, this is going to happen. If I do that, that's going to happen. What should I do? So that's confusion. Clarity is, I see. And when you just see, you just do it. You just do what you do. So this is, I always love this because it's such a great visual. Now, something just came on and went off. What was that? The other one in the back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It might have films.
Okay. I'm going to turn the lights off just for this. We won't do 15 minutes this time because we're trying to set this up so we can understand a little bit of it. There's a lot in this first one. Let's see, I've lost my... This is a speaker, by the way.
Welcome to Yoga Nidra, the meditative heart of yoga. As your body begins to settle, you may wish to close your eyes in preparation for engaging this practice. Set your attention free to wander through your senses.
What you thought about this, or what you notice?
This happened to me last time too, but it's hard to, it's easy to feel the sensations on the extremities, but it's hard to feel the sensation, the internal sensations.
Hands and feet are easy.
Yeah.
And mouth.
Right,
That's why he starts in the mouth.
right. So does that get?
Well, let's take a look. There's several things. Glad you brought that up. There's a couple of words here that I wanted to work with that sometimes give people problems. One of them is radiance. That's just a word, so don't think that you're supposed to be radiant, whatever that is. In other words, what we're getting at here is to get beneath thought. In other words, I can think about my hand, but we're so used to thinking, I'm thinking about my hand. So what this practice is doing is getting beneath thinking to the sensation, but sensation is still a thought. You see, so whatever I call it is still a thought or a name, call it radiance or sensation or whatever, that's still a word. And the practice is to very easily slip beneath that. You can't go by force. You just have to relax and begin to be aware of the sensation. And when you do that, you'll also be aware of thought, thinking about it. So you'll notice two dimensions going on here in this little very simple practice. Is that you can feel or sense the sensation in your mouth, and you'll also begin, as you do this, you'll be aware of thinking about it, or suddenly thought will come in and pull you off, like you're pulling a dog off. Come with me this way, or you're taking a sidetrack or something. The next thing you know, you're thinking about your dinner. Or, oh, and then where am I? Oh, back of foot already. Oh, I missed the whole thing. So you go back to foot, right? So this is the practice. The practice is that you're setting up the conditions where you're going to put your awareness on the now of your body. In other words, your sensations are your life. I mean, the sensations of your body is not a thought, it's being. I mean, it's like, it's that the sensations of your body is your being, but we live in our culture in thinking about being. So I'm thinking about life, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do, I'm thinking about my foot, it hurts, I need to take it to the doctor, but I don't sit with the pain. I want to get rid of it. I don't like the sensations of my, unless I'm having, But so the beginning of this, he sets us up by saying, this is like a mantra. I'm awake, I'm aware, and I welcome every perception as a guide to my essential grounded being, or my true nature, or my spot. We're going to talk about when we started. So we're setting up to welcome, without judgment or comment, whatever comes up. You see, so I'm setting myself up to welcoming whatever my mind is going to be doing, and whatever is going on, I'm going to be open to it, and not say, oh, this shouldn't be, or I should be doing this better, or this is stupid, or I need to be thinking about this because I got this problem, all this yada yada. We just let that go. We welcome that too. You see, so, and that's this word equanimity that he talks about. Equanimity, okay. It means treating everything equally that appears in perception. So it's, if you want to put it in a biblical context, don't judge. Because judgment is not welcome. You say, oh, well, this is good and that's bad. Equanimity is there's no good or bad. I'm just open to whatever is happening as experience without bringing anything to it. Like this shouldn't happen. Or I wish it was better. See? And we're kind of like conditioned to live in a world in which we're constantly measuring it for its value. To the little, you go in a room and somebody has fixed it all up, and somebody will come in and they, well, you should have had this way instead of that. There's some, it could be better. It's always, so, but what this approach is, it can't be better or it can't be worse. It's just here. So we're just basically doing the rather odd procedure of sitting with ourselves just as it is. And then we want to, what this practice does here is sets us up so we can notice our thinking. See, we live in our thinking. So in me is a thought, is the thinker. So I'm like a fish in a fishbowl. I can't be aware of the fishbowl because I'm in it. You see, so I can't be aware of thinking because I'm thinking. So thinking can't be aware of thinking. See, so it just keeps running by us. You see, which kind of like the mind is usually like if you go to the beach and there are nice waves coming in, you wave out, stand out this far, and a wave comes in over your head, and you get a breath of air, and then another wave comes in, and then you get a breath of air and another wave. So thinking is kind of like that. We're constantly being overcome with thinking. We can't get it because we're in it, you see. Well, this gives us a practice where we can find a spot that is not thinking. And from that spot, we can be aware of thinking. You all get a glimpse of this? So the spot that we're working with right here is our body sensation, which is not thought. Yeah.
I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but when I was in college many moons ago, I was taking a philosophy course, and we had an oral final with the professor. And there was one question, and that was our grade. And he says, tell me the difference between your I and me. Okay? Now this sounds to me somewhat like your I is always there, but you really are reaching to get to your me. Is that true? Your me is really the spot you want to be in. Am I wrong? Because that's your spot.
Well, let's go back to what you said. I'm glad you brought this up. The I in me.
Yeah.
Well, the I, all right, for instance, my I cannot,
I mean, he was talking about I as I. You know?
Yeah, but looking at just physically at my eye can't see my own eye.
Mm-hmm.
So the I is awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It's knowing. Now, I know something. I mean, there's, for instance, if it's raining, well, I would say it's raining. Well, that implies I know it's raining. So there's I know something. What do I know? Well, in this particular, I know it's raining. That's an it. But the I is just knowing, and then it knows something. So when we turn within, there is knowing is awareness. I'm aware of what? Sensation of my thing, you know. And then there is the sensation of me knowing the sensation. So, but now, see, this is where this steps us back a little bit. We live in where we live in our culture is in the me that knows stuff.
Okay.
You see? So if you say, well, I know this, well, what I mean is me, Ed Connolly, this person, knows this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then we communicate this way.
Mm-hmm.
But behind that, there is a knower of the me.
Mm-hmm.
But this knower of the me, in our culture, is like a ghost. It just doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we're very much into living in a me because our economy, you all have been around long enough to see how our culture works. It works on having individuals who buy stuff. And we are cultivated by our culture to believe that we need some stuff. Somehow I'm incomplete, and if I just got a new car, but that hasn't made me complete, so maybe I need this, and then there's an ad to give it to us, right? So we go after that. Or this relationship is not working out, I need that, this town is no good, I want to move there. So this whole sense of me that is not at rest because it hasn't found its spot. And the spot is the knower. See, the awareness of whatever I'm aware of, including my me. So in this little practice, a very simple thing, what he is setting the conditions up so that we can discover, as we try to be aware of the energy, the sensations, or whatever that word is, the sensation in my hand, the heat, or whatever. I'm aware of that tingling, that warmth, you see. And while I'm aware of that, thought is thinking about it, or pulls me off. You see. So then we discover a tension between the directions or the instruction. The instruction of the voice or the instructor is telling me what to do in this practice. Now be aware of your left finger or your left palm or whatever. Now do this, now do that. And all the while, thought will notice that our thinking is trying to come in there and upstage it. You see, so with the practice, we begin to see, there begins to be a little space between the knower or the sensation, which is the sensation, just the raw sensation. That's who I am. And then there's the me who thinks about it, and that's who I think I am. But we'll notice that there's something else going on here that we have to explore. So this whole practice is this intention that I'm speaking to us about here, is that for this to have any drive to it, so it moves us, we have to be curious about discovering through this practice who I am. See, not who I think I am.
It's almost like if you had the rain, okay, you had a rainstorm and you had your window open.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, your thinking person would say, I should go close the window.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like rain for me is very relaxing. I want to hear every pitter patter
Yeah.
of the rain.
Yeah.
So if I were really into my spot, I'd say, the heck with it, I'm gonna leave the window open. My intention would be to satisfy my senses at that point.
Well, what you
Is that
described
true or
is,
not?
all right, let's expand this, tell you what the homework is for this week.
I'm sorry, I'm
No,
giving
you
you
brought
choice
it
one.
up. Is that for this week is have the intention to work with this practice to see if it works for you. So you won't know if you don't give it a try, Number two is that you need to make this portable. So you have the formal practice, like I'm going to do this in the morning after I get up, or do it in the evening after dinner, or when you figure out a time when you want to do it, and then kind of like stick to that time. Because if you just jump around, do it here today, do it there tomorrow, pretty soon, because the world is, this is a lot like algae on a pond. So we live in, our mind is like algae. Everything is kind of like green. And so you clear a little space in the pond, and oh, I can see myself. But if you don't keep doing that every day, the algae grows back. Pond scum. And then it comes back, oh, forget it, I can't do it. So the pond scum, the thinking mind, is going to come up with all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't do this. because it doesn't want to be still. Because if me is still, me doesn't exist. Basically, so thinking me doesn't want to shut up. Because if thinking goes, there's no thinker. And thinking me experiences that as death. Now, I don't want to die. The stillness to thinking is like death. You letting go of thinking, you know what's going to happen. You don't know. Thinking says, you can't do that. I won't let you. So I'm going to keep talking. I'll talk about letting go. See what I mean? I'll talk about it. You see, so what we're looking at here is setting up the conditions where we can play with this. You know, play. Yeah, you have to enter it with a spirit of play, and not, I'm going to make this work because I got to do this or that. You see, so I'm going to drive this thing in there. Well, that's a setup for exhaustion, and you quit. So you have to enter it with the sense of okayness and welcoming and play. And not really doing it for the sake of doing it, for the curiosity, rather than what you think you're going to get out of it. Because if you set yourself up, well, I'm going to do this for a week, and I better be enlightened in a week, or I'll quit. Oh, you'll quit. You see, so you don't set yourself up. You see, just enter it as a play, and you're going to just see how it works. So how do you make this portable? Is that during the day, our days are full of dead time. I'm walking to the coffee pot. I'm walking to the living room. Well, when you do that, become aware of the energy in your feet. Become aware of, when you move your arms, become aware of the breeze on your arm. If you're outside, become aware of the sun on the side of your face. If you're sitting, be aware how you're sitting. If you're, whatever you're doing, you can take a break from what the mind is doing to be aware of the sensations of life, you see. So you're becoming aware of the energy of our own life, you see, which is not thinking.
This is not a really quick thing. I mean, this is something you have to practice.
No, this is a practice. Yeah.
Because,
No.
yeah.
No, this is not a 5-minute pill.
Okay.
Something like that. This is a practice that works, but it has no time frame and says do this 2 weeks and bam, you got it. You see, there is no time frame on it, but it works. And the only thing that drives it is going to be your intention. You see, so if I just do it, once a day, forget about it. Well, that's good, but the more gas you put in this car, the better it's going to run, the more it's going to get you there. See, so that intention, and also too, in this, in the beginning of this, the other thing he talks about is setup. He gives you the mantra that you need to repeat every day, all the time, every minute of the day is I'm awake and I'm aware. And if the phone rings and there's a telemarketer, watch what your mind does. Does your mind want to slam the phone down? Damn it. You know what? Then remember the mantra. I'm awake and I'm aware and I welcome this. So you're not welcoming the telemarketer. You're welcoming your reaction to the telemarketer. See the difference? You welcome the anger at the disruption to your peace or your plans, that using it as a metaphor, the telemarketer or the brother-in-law who calls you up and chews you out for something, or the TV broke down and the guy can't come, and whatever. So telemarketer would be kind of like the dissatisfactory interruption of my perfect life. Be this way. Well, this practice pulls the rug out from under that and says, wait, just welcome your reaction and see what happens. In other words, by welcoming, you notice it without slapping yourself for having it. You know, a lot of times what happens is that, particularly if we're working, we have a good self-image of ourselves, I'm a good Christian. So somebody says something, you get angry at them, or you feel a negative thought, and then you slap yourself for, I shouldn't have that thought. So now you got, I have a good story, a friend told me about a goose. She was a little girl, and there was a wire fence there with a goose, and so she was curious about the goose, and held some food there, and the goose bit her finger. And then the parents blamed her for sticking her finger in, for doing that. So the moral of, she got 2 goose bites. One was the goose bite from the goose because she was curious, and the second bite was from the parents faulting her for being curious. And then we go through life faulting ourselves with so in other words, every time we fault ourselves for doing something that we that we just did, you see, it's like being bitten by a flock of geese, so the goose keeps biting us. You see, so these little negative reactions to things that upset us are like goose bites in the mind, and this practice basically creates the intention so that we notice that we're biting ourselves continually. We don't even see, we don't even know we're doing it, because most Americans live this way. You know, this is normal. We're all constantly biting ourselves for some imaginary reason, or someone else. Either we bite someone else or bite ourselves. And we think it's wrong. So this week, work with this particular, the first one. This is an important one because it sets you up and it gives you an attitude towards life, your everyday life, that you can work with. You have to work with it. You have to catch yourself, say, oh, there it is. You know, so you're suddenly getting all upset about something. Oh, there it is. And immediately when you notice that, you can go to your spot or your practice and shift your attention to the energy or the sensation in your hands, where it's easy. You don't have to go find your rib cage. You just, you know, find your hand, find the energy in your palms, and notice what happens. So, because you cannot think about something that's disturbing you, yada, 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 and put your attention on the energy in your hands at the same time. You see. So right away, you're learning how to notice when the mind is snapping at something, or yourself. And you also discover that by taking your attention off of the me that is hurt by this telemarketer, incident you see, and put your attention on your living energy, that the reactive situation runs out of gas. It just fades off. And a little clarity comes in, and you're, well, I'm really okay. You reestablish your okayness. So we're looking to open our eyes and go into our everyday mind. And one beautiful thing about being retired, or being in the second half, is that we have a little more leisure time than the younger folks who are doing 9 to 5 and working 2 or 3 jobs. They don't have time for this. You see. You know, so the kids are out of the house for most of us, and this is the time for practice and for awakening wisdom. In our culture, in Indian culture, there are 4 stages of life, and ancient Indian culture. There's the life of the student. There's the life of the householder, the family or business. There's the next stage would be the stage of retirement, which would be to study spiritual teachings and go live with it, find a teacher, and to begin to practice the teachings of the wisdom teachings. And the fourth stage would be enlightenment or Buddha nature, which is liberation from fear of death. That stage can happen at any time in life. It can happen in that stage can happen in your youth, householder, or retired stage. That awakening to the truth of my life, and liberation from its contraction and fear. But the idea of the retirement age being that of the wisdom age is kind of like lost in our culture. So the seniors or the elder are not the wise people. They're the ones that we need to put in the nursing home because they don't have any more function. You see, so or they just go play golf and watch TV. That's that's it. So this really flips the meaning of our life around. That this is the age of awakening, and not the age of waiting for death. So it's the age when the figs become the sweetest and the dahlias become the brightest. Okay?
That's nice.
So, okay,
Thank you.
we're good, and work with this and have something to talk about next week, or you couldn't do it, or you could do it, what you didn't like, what you did. Have some adventures.
Thank you.
Thank you.